So the colors, they're an integral part of our life, and therefore the colors of the Rashis, they can be used in so many ways. Knowing how colors are created in the horoscope and in our everyday life is actually very important. There are two types of color theories. One is the additive color theory and the other one is the subtractive color theory. The one is called the additive color theory because you start without light or black color, and then you add different types of light to get a certain color, right? This color theory is based on the RGB colors. So if you add up those three primary colors of red, green, and blue, then you get white. The subtractive color theory does not use light, rather it involves the mechanical mixing of colors, such as when you paint a picture on a piece of paper. So you start with white background, and then as you add the colors, you get different colors. It is called a subtractive color theory because when you add color, it becomes darker, right? The primary colors are the CMY colors, and when you add up cyan, magenta, and yellow, you get black. The primary colors of one color theory, they become the secondary colors of the other color theory. So when we mix red light and green light, for example, we get yellow light. When we mix red light and blue light, we get magenta light. When we mix green light and blue light, we get cyan light. So we can do the same for the CMY colors, and we will see that the RGB colors actually become their secondary colors, right, when we mix them together. Of course, the difference is, again, that when we're dealing with the CMY color spectrum, we are dealing with the printing colors and not the light colors. That's why when you do photo editing or video editing, you will deal with RGB colors. But when you buy yourself a new printer and you want to print out, let's say a picture on a paper, then you deal with CMY colors. The secondary colors also become the complementary colors, right? The complementary color of magenta is green. The complementary color of yellow is blue. The complementary color of red is cyan. So this will be very important later on when we talk about the Rashis and their colors, since those complementary colors are opposite in the horoscope. If you mix a cyan light with its complementary red light, then you get the white light. And if you mix a cyan paint and a red paint, you get a black paint. So the complementary colors are another way we can look at the colors in the horoscope. So now let's talk about the fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. The fire signs rule the colors that absorb and reflect light. So these are the CMY colors, right? The fire signs are those signs that reflect basically who we are, our light that we want to express in the world. And there are certain colors that can represent the fire of ourself. So Aries is magenta and Leo is yellow. Now, Aries is a movable sign and Leo is a fixed sign. And as you remember, Sagittarius is a dual sign, and the dual signs are both movable and fixed. And so in order to get the color of Sagittarius, we need to combine those primary colors, magenta and yellow, and we get red as the color of Sagittarius. Now, we know that the complementary colors are found in the opposite signs. So if Aries is magenta, then Libra is green. If Leo is yellow, then Aquarius is blue. And if Sagittarius is red, then Gemini is cyan. So those 6 colors are the 3 primary and 3 secondary colors of the subtractive color theory. Now the air signs are opposite the fire signs, right? The air signs represent the additive color spectrum, right? Sometimes the way that we can explain this is sometimes we have very vivid dreams, right? We think, we are part of a certain world in our dream. It seems it's very real, but then one moment we just wake up and realize, wow, this was actually only a dream, right? Now, some say that even that we also dream in a similar way during the daytime, right? This doesn't mean that the dream right now is not real, but it means that what we dream and experience when we are awake during the day might not be based on our true eternal identity, right? And the colors of the air signs or the world around us are those produced by a light, which are the RGB colors, right? It's the light of the sun that ultimately illuminates the world around us, right? Without the sun, the world would be dark, right? So it is those RGB colors that represents the light of the sun in different colors. And Libra is green, Aquarius is blue, and then again, if we combine the 2 colors for the dual air sign, then we get cyan for the color of Gemini. And then when we add the other 3 colors, magenta, yellow, and red, then we get the main, then we get those 6 colors of the additive color theory. So now, so far we have talked about the colors that we see during daytime, right? Either they are actually the colors of light, or they're those colors that reflect the light. But what about when there's no light, which is, the color of night, and also the colors that are there between the day and night, which are the colors of twilight, right? Twilight is the transition between day and night and day, right? When the sun rises above the horizon and when the sun sets and goes below the horizon, we can witness an amazing display of unique colors, and these colors are ruled by Cancer and Scorpio. It's not actually easy to distinguish between a sunrise and a sunset simply based on colors. If I showed you an image of a sunrise and a sunset, you might not be able to ascertain which one is which, right? The colors are actually quite similar. However, there's a difference. The sunrise has usually colder and brighter colors, while the sunset has warmer and darker colors, right? However, we need to consider that we need a certain reference color for the twilight colors, okay? And that is red, because when the sun is near the horizon, the sun becomes red, okay? And the colors of the sunrise are colder shades of red, such as pink and purple, while the colors of sunset are warmer shades of red, such as orange and brown, right? Now, the water sign of Pisces, that is the black color, which is the color of night, right? When all light disappears, then of course the color becomes black, and so Pisces rules the black color. But now let's get back to Scorpio and Cancer, right? Scorpio is the water sign that comes before Pisces. It's the sign that rules the colors of sunset, which are orange and brown. And Cancer is the water sign that follows, the night of Pisces, and it rules the colors of sunrise, which are pink and purple. So when we use the warm and cold colors here, we need to simply consider the red of the sun near the horizon as the reference color. Now, for Cancer, we can use pink and purple as the two main colors. Right, the moon and Cancer rule our circulatory system that has arteries and veins. If we look through our arteries with light, then they look pink. If we look through our veins with light, then they look purple. And the waxing moon in our circulatory system rules the arteries, and the waning moon in our circulatory system rules the veins. So the waxing moon is the pink arteries, and the waning moon is the purple veins. And therefore Cancer is both pink and purple. And if there's a waning moon, then the color will be purple, and if there's a waxing moon, then the color will be pink. Now, for all those colors, of course, you need to look at the planets in Cancer too. You know, a light-colored planet like, you know, the moon and Jupiter in Cancer, they will make Cancer pink, you know, which is sort of the light shade of Cancer. Saturn in Cancer will make Cancer purple, like which is the dark shade of Cancer. So Cancer has these two shades of colors that are pink and purple, and you just need to see exactly which one it is exactly. If it's a waning or waxing moon, or the planets in Cancer, or even planets with the moon, is going to influence or is going to determine the exact color. Now, Scorpio is the two primary colors of Scorpio are orange and brown. Brown is basically the dark shade of orange. So if you paint a picture and you want to, you know, make the orange color darker, then it becomes brown. And orange and brown are the colors of Scorpio. And if you get a planet that darkens Scorpio, right, like Saturn, then Scorpio will give you a brown color. But if the moon or Jupiter is in Scorpio, then it's going to be orange. Right? So let's say you want to buy a car and you have your fourth lord of vehicles, Jupiter and Scorpio in the D1 in your birth chart. Then when Jupiter gets activated as the fifth lord, then you will get an orange car, right? Because Jupiter will brighten up the brown color of Scorpio and you get an orange car. But let's say Mars, who rules Scorpio, is joined with Saturn, who is dark. And then when Mars gives you a car, then you might actually get a brown color, right? Because Mars is turning Scorpio brown because it's with Saturn. Whereas Jupiter is turning Scorpio orange or perhaps even bright orange. But both cars are actually Scorpio colored cars. And this is how you can determine the color of your cars. And yes, it's not easy, but it is possible for you to do so. Now, lastly, we also have the earth colors, right? We know about the earth signs that they comprise the qualities of the other three elements, right? In this case, the earth signs have the colors of all the other signs. Capricorn combines all the printing colors, but the colors are not mixed, okay? And so Capricorn is multicolored, right? Capricorn doesn't just do one color, nor does he mix all the colors together. No, Capricorn has an array of colors. Taurus combines and mixes up all the colors in the light spectrum, and as a result we get the white color, okay? When you mix up enough light colors, it turns into white light. Pisces is the absence of light, which is black. Pisces can actually also indicate when something is transparent, right? An absence of light can also indicate that light can pass through certain materials. Air, water, and clear glass, right, are transparent, and glass is transparent to all visible light, and therefore there's no color. Of course, practically speaking, you will use Pisces more often as black, right? If Pisces comes up when you buy a vehicle, then you will get a black car. Now finally, Virgo combines all the light colors, but they're not mixed up, right? When you see a lot of different light colors shining or flickering, that's Virgo. One example of that is a disco ball. That is the shiny object that flashes all sorts of, light colors. But anytime you get a whole array of light colors, that's Virgo, right? Sometimes guys, they like to add a lot of extra lights to their car, inside the car, outside their car. Right? There's so many different lights going off and blinking, perhaps even along with the, with the beat of the music. It almost looks like they turned their car into a moving party vehicle. And that would be also another example of Virgo. Now, at some point, I would really like to do a course on predicting, details of things, the color, size, shape, and so on, all those fun details. However, to predict, the details of a situation is really very advanced astrological practice. And there's really nothing harder than predicting those actual details, right? Because we have to predict them down to the 5th level. Otherwise, what we can do is, and that is actually fairly easy, we just analyze the chart and we can sort of come up with possible details. And usually that is always just gonna anyway answer our questions, okay? But if we wanna have the actual details, of a situation, then we need to find that 5th level Lord that is actually making that, very specific situation happen.